good afternoon, or at least that's what Coach Tomlin likes to say in his pre-game press conferences. And today was the first Tomlin Tuesday of the year at the Steelers facility in Southside Pittsburgh. And we got some pretty interesting news to talk about here on Steelers Talk today. First up here, we're going to be talking about the latest injury updates surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, Nick Herbig and others. We got updates on all of them. Also, is Cam Heyward planning on sitting out week one? He certainly hinted at it on his podcast that was released earlier today. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers released their week one depth chart with some interesting notes on there. So make sure you guys stay tuned for my takeaways from the Steelers' first unofficial depth chart of the regular season. And guys, we are almost there here on Steelers Talk. We are only 5 subscribers away from 90,000 here on Steelers Talk. The march to 100K continues here on this channel. And if you guys want to click that subscribe button, we would greatly appreciate it. And what you guys get by clicking that thumbs up, or clicking that subscribe button, I should say, is you get daily Steelers videos for free surrounding the latest, surrounding the black and gold, breaking news coverage every time the con artist makes a big move. That's going to be important when we get closer to the trade deadline. It's all 100% free, and of course we go live at least 3 times a week, 2 times during the week, and then during the Steelers game for that week on the Steelers Talk live watch party. So we are almost at 90,000 subscribers. Help us get there today by clicking that subscribe button if you want year-round Steelers coverage for free here on YouTube. All right, so today we want to start out with Gabe Davis with the news here that he is signing with the Buffalo Bills. Now, Gabe Davis came in for not 1, but 2 free agency visits with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He also did take a free agency visit to Buffalo, where he played previously with Josh Allen, had his best career seasons there, and now he is heading back to Buffalo. And in regards to adding another wide receiver, or a legit wide receiver too, Mike Tomlin was asked about this at his Week 1 press conference today, and what he said was, quote, "It's not a big issue for me or for us," pretty much saying we're good going into the season with DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, and Calvin Austin III as our starting trio. And I think that pretty much the reason why the Steelers decided not to bring in Gabe Davis was probably the medicals, all right? I know for a fact the first time Gabe Davis came to Southside Pittsburgh, the medicals were not in a good place with his knee. And then as we got closer to the season, they're like, you know what, let's bring him back in, see if that knee is in a better spot. And with the fact that he had a second visit to Pittsburgh and they still didn't sign him, that tells me that he probably failed a second physical with the Steelers medical staff, and that's why the Steelers end up not signing him. But apparently he's healthy enough to sign with Buffalo, so that's where he is headed. And, you know, I think that if the Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity to get a legitimate DK Metcalf backup, somebody that's a big body, somebody that's a true vertical threat, like Gabe Davis, like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the 2 guys they've actually shown interest in over the last 2 weeks, then I think they will pounce, all right? If MVS gets released by San Francisco, I think he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler, all right? But, you know, I think that they are okay going into the season with Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson as their number 2 and number 3 starting wide receivers, all right? Like, I think that obviously they spent a high draft pick on Roman Wilson. They don't want to sit him for a second season on his rookie contract. They feel like he's the perfect fit for them in their offense, and they want to see what he can do this year. And then Calvin showed last year that he's more than capable of being a very effective receiver in the National Football League. He made some really tough catches down the stretch for them last year. He can win to all 3 levels of the field. He's got tougher hands than people give him credit for, and they've both shown a lot of good things in their time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Roman during training camp and during the preseason. Calvin Austin III last season. So obviously these 2 have done enough to earn the starting spots here in Pittsburgh. I guess time will tell if that was the right decision from this organization. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Do you believe in Pittsburgh's starting wide receiver trio? DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson. Do you believe that Omar Khan has done enough at this wide receiver position heading into the year? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. So while I'm talking about PrizePicks, give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And guys, you and I both make decisions every single day. But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. This week, it's week 1, and you better believe I'll be getting my PrizePicks lineups in for the season opener on Thursday, all the way through Monday Night Football. PrizePicks is simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And PrizePicks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from PrizePicks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return with injury, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. Now, in terms of Thursday night, Cowboys versus Eagles, I got the more on Dak Prescott passing yards. That's a free play, by the way. It's just, the half passing yard. Of course, he's going to get more than that. We take the more on George Pickens receiving yards. Really, only it takes like 2 receptions down the field for Pickens to get more than that projected receiving yards. I'm going to take the less on Jalen Hurts passing yards because I think the Eagles will be running the football a lot in this game. And then I'm going to take the more on Saquon Barkley rushing yards here. So you guys can go down there and download the PrizePicks app today. You can get your projection in for Thursday. You can do it for college football on Saturday. You can do it for the Steelers game on Sunday. You can download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the PrizePicks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the PrizePicks app today. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Then we get to some injury updates that were given to us from Coach T today at the podium. Nick Herbig, the edge rusher, is questionable with a hamstring. He's been dealing with that hamstring ever since the second week of the preseason, had to leave that game early after the first drive. And then Derrick Harmon, who suffered a knee injury in the finale in the preseason, is officially going to be out for week 1. All right, now Harmon is expected to be back sometime in the realm of week 2 to week 4. We'll see how that injury progresses, but Derrick Harmon will be out this week. And if Nick Herbig is out this week with that hamstring injury, expect Jack Sawyer to get some run, and especially on early down. Sawyer is a really good run defender, and that's really what he's known for. If you're expecting a lot of pass rushing upside from him, especially in year 1, I think you're going to be disappointed with what Jack Sawyer brings to the table. But, especially if once you get into the second half, you need some early down production as a run defender. You can take TJ Watt off the field. You can take Alex Highsmith off the field at times, give those guys a rest to give Jack Sawyer some run, similar to the way this team used Preston Smith down the stretch last season. And then you can make sure you have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith out there as your passing down specialist at the rusher position. And then when it comes to who's going to be replacing Derrick Harmon, remember, Derrick Harmon is listed as a starter on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense this year in terms of who's going to be replacing his role. I would expect Y.A. Black to probably take on a majority of the snaps that are being voided here by Derrick Harmon's absence. But Mike Tomlin did say it's going to be a committee. Daniel Equale, Isaiah Loudermilk, Y.A. Black, all these guys are going to be getting their time to shine on Sunday. And somebody that I'm definitely keeping my eye out for is Y.A. Black, who's going to be wearing 94 actually during the season. So keep your eye out for that. But he had a terrific preseason. I think he's ready for week 1. I can't wait to see him play on Sunday versus the Jets. So now let's talk a little bit here about Cam Heyward, and some of this stuff has been resurfacing here because Cam Heyward has been practicing and in pads lately, which a lot of people kind of took to mean, all right, he's good to play heading into the season. But now there's people indicating that he's not okay playing without getting that pay raise that he has been looking for the last several weeks and really all offseason long from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Adam Schefter from ESPN said this about Cam Heyward's situation. They've not been able to figure it out, and so I would think it's going to be really interesting to see if Cam Heyward is on the practice field on Wednesday as the Steelers get ready to open their season on Sunday against the Jets. It's about to get interesting there. And again, maybe Cam Heyward says, I'm going to play on this deal. It didn't sound that way early in the summer, but we'll find out. And then today on the Not Just Football podcast released by Cam Heyward, he said on that show when he was asked, are you playing week 1? He said, we'll see. So that's not necessarily the answer you want to hear if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, because obviously with Derrick Harmon out especially, the Steelers need Cam Heyward out there on the field against a team in the New York Jets that is going to be pounding the football and is going to be relying on the run game. And Cam Heyward, man, the difference, his splits when he's on the field versus off the field in terms of run defense for the Steelers last year were monumental. So this is a piece you cannot afford to not be out there. But Mike Tomlin, during his press conference today, seemed to quash any rumors that he might not play, saying, I'm certainly expecting Cam to play. Cam doesn't play a lot in terms of development over the last several years. My job is to get him in and out of Latrobe, and I've done my job. so there are no reservations about his participation or his readiness. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit. So my guess is here, guys, especially now that they've got the Jaylen Warren deal done, I think that the Steelers probably give Cam a raise of some sort this week. Now, for how much, I don't know exactly, but the Steelers do have the cap space to make this work, guys, easily, all right? They have a projected $26.9 million in available cap this season, according to Spotrac. And, like if you give Cam Heyward an $8 to $10 million raise, that's not going to prevent this team from making a big move at the trade deadline. It's just not, all right? So Cam Heyward, I think he has earned a pay raise. That's why he's seeking this pay raise, because he signed a deal that, frankly, was not an all-pro caliber defensive tackle kind of contract because he was coming off multiple seasons with injuries. He was getting older. The production wasn't as high. But then last year, he got back to playing all-pro caliber ball, and now he wants to get paid that way. And the Steelers can absolutely afford to make that happen. My best guess when it comes to what gets done here, I would say a good portion of Cam's roster bonus in 2026, it's a little bit over $12 million is what it's slated to be. They convert 8 to 10, maybe even more than that, to a signing bonus this year to make Cam Heyward happy heading into the year. And if that happens, obviously that roster bonus for next season goes way down, so he's going to have to renegotiate that deal once again if he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. So if you're tired of the Cam Heyward contract drama, all I'll say is just get ready for next year because it's probably coming back. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Will Cam Heyward get his pay raise this week? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. I guess we'll have to see. I think the Steelers are an organization that wants to make their players, especially their team leaders, their team captains, happy heading into the year. I think that's what they're going to do this year, especially because they can afford to. So today, Pittsburgh did release their unofficial Week 1 depth chart. I do have some takeaways to share with you guys. Overall, not too surprising. A lot of stuff that we were expecting from this, but there were some little notes that I do want to share with you guys. First of all, the kick returners do appear to be Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell. So excited to see what those guys can do back there returning kicks this year. Speaking of KJ, Johnson is going to be listed as the RB3 to start the season, and this is kind of what I've been saying on the show lately, guys. Expect to see Jaylen Warren as a feature back to start this season, and Kenny Gainwell is going to rotate in as a third down back when Jaylen needs a break, and then I do think Caleb will get on the field in certain early down situations again when Jaylen needs a break. But whenever Jaylen is good, he's the juice box is full, he's going to be out there, okay? But in terms of the guys that come in relief, if it's an early down situation, that's when Caleb's going to get his time to shine. If it's a passing down situation or third down, it's probably going to be Kenny Gainwell. But yeah, I do think in terms of the pecking order right now, in terms of the guys that get the most and least snaps, Caleb Johnson probably starts the season at the bottom of that totem pole. But obviously, as opportunities go up throughout the season, Caleb's going to get more opportunities, and that has a chance to change. And then Calvin Austin III, listed officially as the team's wide receiver 2 heading into the season. This has been a pretty consistent message from the Steelers inside the building, from Zach Ghazzani and others, that Calvin is this team's number 2 receiver. But he was clearly this team's number 2 best receiver on the team last year, but he didn't get wide receiver 2 snaps, all right? Van Jefferson still out-snapped Calvin Austin by over 100 snaps last year. All right, and the reason for that was because Van Jefferson was bigger, he was a better run blocker, he was more valuable in those condensed formations on early downs than Calvin was, because Calvin's 160 pounds. He doesn't have any functional play strength to move people off the ball. Van Jefferson has a little bit more of that juice, so to speak, as a run blocker, which is why he got more time out there on the field, especially on early downs. And it's like they keep saying Calvin is the number 2 receiver, but my question is he really going to get the second most snaps out of the wide receivers on this team? I think that is a legitimate question to ask when it comes to Calvin Austin III, because it wasn't that way last year. And then when you take a look at a guy like Roman Wilson, he is built to play that quote-unquote Van Jefferson number 2 type of wide receiver role in this offense. He's a much better run blocker. He's obviously bigger than Calvin Austin III is. So you take a look at a guy like Roman Wilson, who can absolutely play that number 2 receiver role. I think there's a decent chance that he could be, the second leading snap getter in this wide receiver room heading into the season. I do think Calvin is this team's second best receiver, at least in terms of what they've proven at the NFL level. But, I think in terms of overall snaps, it would not surprise me at all to see Roman Wilson be this team's quote-unquote wide receiver 2 this year. So let me know down there in the comment section, who gets more snaps this season? Calvin Austin III, type CA, Roman Wilson, type RW. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Definitely an interesting debate and conversation. If it's Calvin, do you really expect him to be a run-blocking presence in this offense? There's certainly some question marks if the answer is Calvin. But personally, guys, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Roman Wilson. Then the final takeaway I have here is that Cameron Heyward is no longer listed as a tight end. Now, he certainly has the versatility to play there if needed, but the Steelers certainly love their tight end trio. And, of course, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Darnell Washington, by the way, all of which are listed as starters on the depth chart. So that tells you how much they're going to be using that tight end trio. But Connor is going to be used as the fullback. He's going to be used as kind of a specialty tight end as well. He's going to be a little bit of a chess piece for the Steelers that can move all around. Now, his blocking needs to get a lot better than where it was last year if he's going to be a full-time fullback. His hands are going to have to be more consistent than they were last year if he's going to be a legitimate receiving threat from the fullback position. But clearly the Steelers feel like they have something here. Aaron Rodgers has shouted him out multiple times in the media, talking about how he's always doing the right things, all that different stuff. So definitely going to be interesting to see what Cameron Heyward's capable of doing with this team this year. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Earlier today, we put out a college quarterback kind of roundup for week 1, my studs and duds list for all the top 2026 QB targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you guys want to check that out, I'll put the chip in the top right now so you can check out that video. But in terms of this video, it's going to be ending right now. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.